Hello everyone, CoinHound here. Today we'll be looking at the James K. Polk Presidential Silver Medal from the U.S. Mint. The medal was released earlier this week, and James Polk was the 11th President of the United States, and this is the 11th medal in the U.S. Mint series. So here before us we have the package for the James K. Polk Presidential Silver Medal. All the medals in this series come in this green packaging. So let's go ahead and open it up here. Taking off the outer sleeve, and then they have an inner box. And then we have the certificate of authenticity here. Just to open this up briefly. Okay, so 3/9 fine silver, 1 troy ounce, plain edge. These run $65 at the U.S. Mint per medal. There is no mintage limit, and all the medals issued so far in the series, from George Washington up to James K. Polk, all of them are available on the U.S. Mint website. So if these have captured your fancy, you can go ahead and go back in and order whichever presidents you prefer, or even try to put the whole set together, at least up to James K. Polk. All right, so we have the nice fuzzy clamshell here, and then opening it up, and there is the medal. So let me just pull this out. Oh, comes out pretty easily. That's not always the case with U.S. Mint stuff. All right, so let's see if we can get a good... Well, it'll probably work better if I put this down on the table, and then we'll zoom in on it. Okay, that's a little better, changing the light there. All right, so here it is, the James K. Polk Silver Medal. As you can see, there is an image of Polk in the center, and it is dated 1845, which was the year he came into office, and then his name and President of the United States on the front. Let's just zoom in a little closer on the design here if we can. Oh, that's a nice shot right there. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Nice detail, very clean metal. Generally, I've found these to be of very high quality when I've received them. I like the detail of the strands of the hair there. Very well done. And I just like the general coloring of the metal. Obviously silver, but it's got kind of this nice little sheen to it that I really like. Now, let's turn it over. And we have the back side of the medal here. Peace and friendship, with the image of a tomahawk, or perhaps an axe, and a peace pipe. And then you have 2 hands shaking. Now, just to give you a little background on these medals, these presidential silver medals are replicas of historical presidential peace medals that were issued during the presidencies of many of our early presidents. And these were primarily issued to be given to the chiefs of various Indian tribes as a gesture of peace. So that's why you see the peace pipe on there, and I'm not sure if that's a tomahawk or an axe, but you see the hand coming from the left there. It looks like it would be a hand from the American side, some form of colonial dress. These first came out in the presidency of John Adams. And then the other hand would be a Native American's hand. And so these are exact replicas. And from John Adams all the way up to James K. Polk, with the exception of William Henry Harrison, because he only served a month, this was the design that was used on those presidential peace medals. And so I find that historical connection to be pretty neat. And it does explain why they have the same reverse on each one of these medals, is because that's how it was back in the past when these were issued as piece medals. And many of those piece medals were made out of silver as well. So there you have it. Let's zoom in on this a little bit, give you a little closer view. All right, just a simple design, but clean. I really like it. I love the history of it. I love the fact that it's a replica. And then turning it back over to the front side again for one last look at Mr. Polk. And there you have it. Okay. So I do ask that you hang with me a little bit longer. We're going to take a quick look at the most up-to-date sales figures for the Presidential Silver Medals program. And we will also do a brief biography of President Polk. Before we look at the sales figures, I thought it might be nice to take a look at one of the original Polk piece medals, which I have put up here on the screen. This is an image taken from the website coinappraisers.com. So this is 1845, which is the year Polk was inaugurated. You can see the medal there in front of you. It was a silver medal, and it has a hole poked in the top, as you can see. So oftentimes these were given out, as I mentioned earlier, to Indian chiefs and Indian tribes as a sign of friendship from the United States government. And they were often given out as necklaces. So that's why the hole is poked in the top, because it would be worn by the recipient. And you can note that the design that you see in front of you is pretty much exactly the same as the medal just issued, the replica medal that was just issued by the U.S. Mint this week. And it does have that tomahawk and clasping hands with the peace and friendship notation on there on the reverse. Now, as I mentioned, this was a reverse design that was used basically from Thomas Jefferson up until Zachary Taylor, who was the president after James K. Polk. The one exception was William Henry Harrison. He was only president for about a month, and he had a different design on the back. After Zachary Taylor, there's going to be a new reverse design that's going to be used, and obviously we'll get to that when the upcoming medals come out. So I thought you might be interested in that. The appraised price there is $57,500. So these things are quite valuable if you have one of the original ones. Needless to say, I do not have one, nor can I afford to get one. Now, looking at the sales figures, I took these off of coinnewsnet.com, and they do a weekly update of the U.S. Mint sales of all the various Mint products. And this is just a section on the presidential silver medals. And you can see on the chart there that they've been issuing these since 2018. The presidents are listed there in order. Oddly, Washington or Adams are switched on the bottom there, so I don't know if that was the way that they were issued by the U.S. Mint or why that's switched like that, but it is. You can see that the first three medals are the most popular in sales, with John Adams, George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson there. But it's also worth noting that they've been out the longest, so it is expected that they would be higher up in the sales totals, because these medals, all of them, are still for sale. There is not a limited mintage. As of at least so far, there hasn't been any sort of time constraint on the mintage. So they are all available. So if you don't have any of them, you can certainly get in on it and start collecting away, beginning with Washington and moving onward. Or you can pick and choose which presidents you want. You can see in the latter medals, the sales are generally in about the 12 to 15,000 range. We'll see how they grow over time. John Tyler was issued in the summer of last year. His the most recent medal before Polk. You can see that he has sales of 113 this past week, and so that is exceeding all the other ones, people getting the most recent medal. But generally, as you look down the list of this column here, which is the sales over the past week, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, with the highest totals, and that's generally the case month to month. Those are the three most popular medals. Let's finish up this video with a brief biography of President Polk, the 11th President of the United States, a one-term president. He had promised during the campaign to only serve one term, and he did maintain that promise. He was, at the time, the youngest president of the United States, or the youngest person to become president, at the age of 49. That mark has since been superseded by John F. Kennedy and Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was the youngest ever at 41. He came to the presidency via an assassination of William McKinley. Roosevelt was vice president. Kennedy is the youngest president to ever be elected, being 43 years old when he took office. And of course, today, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, is the oldest man to have ever been elected president. I believe he was 78 on his inauguration day. Now, Polk was born in 1795, and he was born in North Carolina, but his formative years and adulthood were spent in Tennessee. He was a lawyer by profession. He did get involved in politics, obviously, and was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Later on, he rose up to become Speaker of the House, which is the highest ranking person in the House of Representatives. Followed that up by serving as the governor of Tennessee, and then ultimately elected president. He was a member of the Democrat Party. Now, Polk had a very successful presidency when compared to the goals that he set and what he was sought out to achieve. As a little background, he was a proponent of manifest destiny, which was the belief that it was the destiny of the United States to spread across the continent all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And he played a key role in that spread. He was instrumental in bringing about the annexation of Texas. Texas at that point was an independent country, having recently won its war of independence against Mexico. He played a key role in the acquisition of the Oregon Territory up to the northwest. And then he was a driving force behind the Mexican-American War, which would ultimately add two territories, the California Territory and the New Mexico Territory. Don't get those confused with the state of California and the state of New Mexico. Those territories were much larger, and then they were eventually broken down into California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, etc. So he basically finished the westward expansion of the United States and the creation of the United States as it looks like today, at least from a geographic perspective. Due to his success, he was long ranked as one of the more successful and better presidents. C-SPAN, on a periodic basis every couple of years, does a survey of presidential historians and has them analyze presidents in a number of different categories, and they come up with a ranking. In recent years, James K. Polk has fallen off a bit. It wasn't uncommon for him to be considered, just on the bottom end of the top 10 a number of decades ago, and he currently has fallen off. If you look at the rankings here, this is from the C-SPAN survey of 2021. He is ranked 18th, the 18th best and most effective president of all time, and you can see he has fallen off from number 12 back in 2000 or even 2009, where he was number 12. And if you look at the different subcategories, the main area he's been marked down in recently is moral authority. And so I suspect that there has been a growing discomfort amongst many in the nation with the Mexican-American War, the way in which that was used as a vehicle to acquire the southwestern portion of the United States. And so I suspect that's why he's been marked down in that area. If you're curious as to the other rankings, here are the top 10, and I will put a link into the C-SPAN rankings page, so you can look at the whole chart if you want. But these are the top 10. And you can see Abraham Lincoln is number 1 and has been number 1 for, a good 20 years, at least in this survey. Washington, number 2. And Franklin Roosevelt, 3. And then Theodore Roosevelt, 4. And that's been pretty consistent over time. Then we get to Eisenhower, Truman, Jefferson, Kennedy, Reagan, and Obama. And when you look at this, there does appear to be a little recency bias. A number of these presidents, about 6 of them, have served in the last 80 years. And Barack Obama, quite recent, just, 5 years since he's been president. I would make an argument that irregardless of what one thinks of Barack Obama, that maybe including recent presidents in historical surveys is not a good idea because there's not sufficient historical perspective yet. Maybe a wait of maybe 20 years after they leave office, I think would be much better. And the reason I say that is if you take the example of Harry Truman had very low opinion ratings when he left office back in the 50s. The end of the Korean War hadn't gone real well for him. And, I think generally a lot of people considered him to have been a failed president. And now he's ranked 6th of all time because times change, perspective change, the emotions get drained out of things, and you get to see the full implications of what the president did over time. So anyways, thought you might be interested in that. And thanks for coming along on the historical journey here with me. And I'm getting ready to sign off here. So I hope you all have a good day, good night. And this is CoinHound signing off.